Kelvin and Dijesh, can you hear my voice? Okay, so today's topic, you people tell me what are the challenges you are facing till now. Suggest me some topic, so that I can take up the class on that topic, or else I should discuss whatever topic I feel like. If you have any topic to discuss, just go on and tell me. Any interesting lecture you want to have today on attitude, motivation, controlling? Okay. What type of controlling you want? What exactly controlling? See, controlling is a very vast topic. So what exactly you want on controlling? Okay, just Kelvin, give me a minute. I'll just arrange something for that controlling topic.
Is found. Controlling.
Okay, Kelvin, so I have just one video for you on controlling. Okay, so I'm playing the video. Just watch the video, Kelvin and Dijesh, then after that we can discuss on the video. Okay?
Controlling. A manager performs various tasks such as planning, organizing, staffing, and directing to attain organizational goals. Besides these, a manager needs to check if his subordinates are performing their tasks as per the required standards or not. If he thinks that the performance is below standards, he needs to take corrective action for the same. The process of monitoring organizational performance towards the attainment of organizational goals is controlling. Controlling is one of the 5 functions of management. The task of controlling involves establishing standards of performance at the time of planning, measuring current performance, comparing this with established standards, and taking corrective action where any deviation is found. Controlling is a goal-oriented function as it ensures that the resources of an organization are being used effectively and efficiently for the achievement of predetermined goals. Controlling sees to it that the right things happen in the right ways and at the right time. A good controlling system comes to the rescue of a manager and helps an organization in different ways. Through controlling function, a manager can keep his team on the right track to achieve organizational goals. An efficient controlling system helps a manager to verify the accuracy of the standards set. He can also review and revise the standards as per the changes taking place in and out of an organization through an efficient controlling system. Through an efficient controlling system, a manager can ensure that resources are used in the most effective and efficient manner. A good controlling system motivates employees and helps them to perform better. The controlling function tells employees about the work they are expected to do, as well as about the standards of performance on the basis of which they will be appraised. An efficient controlling system helps to minimize dishonest behavior on the part of the employees by keeping a close check on their day-to-day activities. The controlling function also facilitates coordination in an organization. Each department and employees in an organization is governed by predetermined standards that are well coordinated with one another to attain organizational goals. Controlling is very important managerial function. It is concerned with taking measures or preventive actions to ensure achievement of organizational goals. Controlling is a 5-step process of establishing performance standards based on the organization's objectives, measuring actual performance, comparing the two, analyzing the deviation, and taking corrective or preventive action as necessary. Establishment of standards. The control process begins with the establishment of performance objectives or standards. Standards are the plans or the targets which have to be achieved in the course of business function. These are the criterions for judging the actual performance. Standards can be broadly classified into measurable, tangible or quantitative standards, and non-measurable, intangible or qualitative standards. Those standards which can be measured and expressed in numbers or in terms of money are called as measurable, tangible or qualitative standards. They can be in the form of cost, output, expenditure, time, profit, etc. Those standards which cannot be measured monetarily or in numbers can be termed as non-measurable, intangible or qualitative standards. For example, performance of a manager, workers' attitudes towards an organization and others. It is important to have flexible standards so that it can be modified with the change in the internal and external business environment. Measurement of actual performance. After setting standards, the second step is to measure the actual performance of individuals, groups or units. The measurement of tangible standards is easy as it can be expressed in units, cost, money terms, etc., while the measurement of quantitative measurement becomes difficult when performance of an individual has to be measured. The measurement can be done through personal observation, written or oral reports by or about employees, automatic methods, inspections, test or samples. Comparison of actual performance with standards. The comparison of actual performance with predetermined standards is an important step in control process. Such comparison will reveal the deviation between actual and desired results. Let's take an example. Suresh is working as a manager with PQR Private Limited, which produces shoes. The company plans to sell about 1 lakh shoes in 6 months. That is, about 17,000 shoes per month. But Suresh discovered that his production team could produce only 10,000 shoes in a month. Here, the deviation is in terms of production. Analyzing deviations. After determining deviations, a manager has to find out the extent of deviation as well as the cause of deviation. Extent of deviation means that the manager has to find out whether the deviation is positive or negative, or whether the actual performance is in conformity with the planned performance. In our example, the deviation is in terms of production and is negative. Even under the best of circumstances, deviations from performance standards are inevitable. Therefore, the managers have to exercise management by exception. A manager needs to find out the critical and important deviations for his business. He may ignore minor deviations, but should look upon major deviations like replacement of machinery, appointment of workers, quality of raw material, rate of profits, etc. consciously. In the given example, the deviation is a major one, as less production will affect the company's profits also. Once the deviation is identified, a manager has to think about various causes behind the deviation. The causes may be erroneous planning, unrealistic standards, defective process, inadequacy of resources, ineffective supervision and communication, etc. In the given example, Suresh discovered that the main cause behind low production was inadequate number of manpower. Taking corrective actions. Finally, once the causes and the extent of deviations are known, a manager needs to take remedial measures for them. After discovering the reason behind low production, Suresh decided to increase the strength of employees in the production unit. If a manager finds that the actual performance is not in conformity with plans, even after taking the corrective measures, he needs to revise the targets. To summarize, control is an essential function of management in every organization. The management process is incomplete and sometimes useless without the control function. The term control has different meanings in different contexts. In the management context, control refers to the evaluation of performance and the implementation of corrective actions to accomplish organizational objectives. Controlling thus plays an important role in helping managers detect irregularities, identify opportunities, handle complex situations, decentralize authority, minimize costs, and cope with uncertainty. Techniques of managerial control. We have learnt that a manager needs to perform controlling function to check if the organization is performing as per the set goals. There are various control techniques that provide a manager with the type and amount of information he needs to measure and monitor the performance of his employees. These control techniques may be broadly classified into two categories: traditional control techniques, advanced control techniques. Traditional control techniques are those which are being used by managers for a long time now. Traditional control techniques include personal observation, statistical reports, break-even analysis, budgetary control. Personal observation is the most traditional method of controlling. This method enables a manager to observe the operations at workplace. Through this technique, a manager corrects the operations on the spot and directs a worker if the latter is not performing the work according to the set standards. The employees feel psychological pressure and they perform well as they know that they're being personally observed on their job. The technique is very time-consuming and not suitable for all kinds of jobs. A manager may use statistical reports analysis in the form of averages, percentages, ratios, correlation, etc. to collect useful information regarding the performance of an organization in various areas. Such information in the form of table, graphs, etc. enables a manager to compare performance of an organization in current period with that in previous periods. A manager may use break-even analysis to analyze the relationship between cost of production, volume of production, price level of output and profits. Through this technique, a manager can estimate profits at different levels of activities. A point where total revenue of an organization is equal to its total cost is break-even point. It is a no profit and no loss point. In the given figure, break-even point is determined by the intersection of total revenue and total cost curves. As we can see in the given example, the firm will break even at 450,000 units of output. It is beyond this point that the firm will start earning profits. Break-even point can be calculated by the following formula. Break-even point is equal to fixed costs divided by the difference between selling price per unit and variable cost per unit. A budget is a numerical statement expressing plans, policies and goals of an organization for a definite future period. Budgetary control is a system wherein budgets for different activities are used for controlling and planning purposes in an organization. This technique enables a manager to compare actual performance with a budgeted performance after the completion of a particular activity. If there is any negative deviation, he needs to take necessary actions to achieve organizational goals. The most common types of budgets used by an organization are sales budget, production budget, material budget, cash budget, capital budget, and research and development budget. Advanced control techniques are those which are of recent origin and are comparatively new in management literature. Advanced control techniques include return on investment, ratio analysis, responsibility accounting, management audit, PERT and CPM, management information system. Return on investment or ROI is regarded as a useful technique of control. It determines the rate of profitability on the capital employed. Hence, it is also known as return on capital employed. Return on investment or ROI can be calculated as under. ROI is equal to net income or profit divided by total investment. A manager can use ROI to measure overall performance of an organization or of its individual departments or divisions. Ratio analysis. A manager may compute ratios to analyze financial statements. The most commonly used ratios can be classified in the following categories. 1. Liquidity ratios. 2. Solvency ratios. 3. Profitability ratios. 4. Turnover ratios. A manager needs to calculate liquidity ratios to determine short-term solvency of business. Through the analysis of current position of liquid funds, he can determine the ability of an organization to pay the amount due to its stakeholders. Examples of some liquidity ratios commonly used by managers are current ratio, quick ratio, etc. A manager needs to calculate solvency ratios to determine the financial soundness of an organization and how well the company can satisfy its short and long-term obligations. Examples of some solvency ratios commonly used by managers are debt-equity ratio, proprietary ratio, interest coverage ratio, etc. A manager needs to calculate profitability ratios to analyze the profitability position of a business. These ratios analyze profits in relation to sales of funds or capital employed. Examples of some profitability ratios commonly used by managers are gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, return on capital employed. A manager may calculate turnover ratios to determine the efficiency of operations based on effective utilization of resources. Higher turnover means better utilization of resources. Examples of some turnover ratios commonly used by managers are inventory turnover ratio, stock turnover ratio, debtors turnover ratio, etc. Responsibility accounting is a system of accounting in which different sections, divisions and departments of an organization are set up as responsibility centers. The head of the center is responsible for achieving the targets set for his center. Responsibility centers may be of the following types: cost center, revenue center, profit center, investment center. In a cost or expense center, a manager is held responsible for the cost incurred in the center. For example, in a manufacturing organization, production department is classified as cost center. In a revenue center, a manager is primarily responsible for generating revenue. For example, marketing department of an organization may be classified as a revenue center. In a profit center, a manager is responsible for both revenues and costs. For example, repair and maintenance department of an organization may be treated as a profit center if it is allowed to build other production departments for the services provided to them. In an investment center, a manager is responsible not only for profits but also for investments made in the center in the form of assets. Traditional control techniques fail to appraise the quality of managerial personnel, which is essential for the success of an organization. Management audit is a step in this direction. Management audit refers to systematic appraisal of the overall performance of the management of an organization. It can be performed by outside consultants or by an organization's own internal audit staff. Management audit locates the deficiencies in the performance of management functions such as planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and control, and suggests possible improvements. Network analysis is the general name given to certain specific techniques which help a manager to plan, schedule, monitor, and control large and complex projects. Two different techniques for network analysis are PERT, Program Evaluation and Review Technique, and CPM, Critical Path Management. Program Evaluation and Review Technique, or PERT, was developed in 1958 by Booz Allen and Hamilton under the sponsorship of the U.S. Navy for use in Polaris submarine project. Around the same time in U.S., Critical Path Method, or CPM, was created by DuPont with the help of Remington Rand. A manager may use PERT and CPM to deal with time scheduling and resource allocation for a variety of complex, diverse, and interrelated activities. These techniques aims at effective execution of projects within given time schedule and structure of costs. Under these techniques, a manager needs to divide a project into a number of clearly identifiable activities or tasks. Then, he will have to prepare a network diagram to show the sequence of activities, the starting point and the termination point of the project. After this, he needs to assign time and/or cost estimates to each activity. Then, he will have to compute the longest time path through the network. The path is known as the critical path. At last, he may modify the plan to control the execution and timely completion of project. PERT and CPM are used extensively in areas like shipbuilding, construction projects, aircraft manufacture, to name a few. Management Information System, or MIS, is basically concerned with processing data into information which is then communicated to all levels of personnel and departments in an organization for appropriate decision making. It provides the right type of data and information to the top management at the right time so that they can formulate appropriate control techniques in case of deviations from standards. In a nutshell, managerial control techniques help in measuring the overall efficiency of management from different perspectives to suit various conditions and requirements. Control techniques provide managers with the type and amount of information they need to measure and monitor performance. The information from various controls must be tailored to a specific management level, department, unit, or operation.
Planning and Overview.
Once upon a time there lived a princess who was the apple of her father's eye. Her father loved her dearly and sent her abroad to complete her education. However, when the princess came back, she was in for a shock. The wicked vizier had killed her father and declared himself king. The shocked princess fled to the jungle. After wandering around in a dazed state for more than a week, the starving princess came upon a small hut. She fainted at the door. When she awoke, she found herself in a hermit's hut. She narrated her story to the hermit.
Daughter, you have suffered grievously. What do you propose to do?
Sir, I am helpless. Please help me regain my kingdom.
Arise, daughter. I will help you. We need to formulate a plan.
Plans?
Yes. Don't you want to punish the vizier and get back your kingdom?
Thus began the princess's training. On the first day, the hermit asked her some questions.
Where are we presently?
In the forest.
Where do you want to be?
In my kingdom, ruling over it.
How do you plan to get over there?
The princess was silent. The hermit smiled. This is where you will learn about planning. What is a plan? Planning is a process for accomplishing purpose. It is a blueprint of business growth and a roadmap for development. It helps in deciding objectives both in quantitative and qualitative terms. According to Coons and O'Donnell, planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do, and who is to do it. Planning bridges the gap between where we are to where we want to go. It makes possible things to occur which would not otherwise occur. What should a plan be? A plan should be a realistic view of the expectations. Depending upon the activities, a plan can be long range, intermediate range, or short range. It is the framework within which it must operate. For management seeking external support, the plan is the most important document and key to growth. Preparation of a comprehensive plan will not guarantee success, but lack of a sound plan will almost certainly ensure failure. Planning can be summarized in 3 easy steps. 1. Choosing a destination. 2. Evaluating alternative routes. And 3. Deciding the specific course of your plan. Why is it important to have a plan? It is important to prepare a plan, keeping in view the necessities of the enterprise. A plan is an important aspect of business. It serves the following 3 critical functions. Planning helps management to clarify, focus, and research their businesses or projects' development and prospects. Planning provides a logical framework within which a business can develop and pursue business strategies over the next 3 to 5 years. Planning offers a benchmark against which actual performance can be measured and reviewed. Features of planning. Planning is a process rather than behavior at a given point of time. Planning is future-oriented. Planning is undertaken at all levels of the organization. Planning is flexible as commitment is based on future conditions which are always dynamic. Hence, plans have to be changed in accordance with the changed conditions. Planning is a pervasive and continuous managerial function involving complex processes of perception, analysis, conceptual thought, communication, decision, and action. Planning is always goal-directed. A manager cannot plan anything unless he knows what he wants to achieve. Planning is the primary function of management, as every activity needs to be planned before it is actually performed. In other words, planning precedes all other managerial functions and provides the very basis for organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. Planning basically involves making choices. Need for planning arises when goals or objectives are many and alternatives to achieve them are also plenty. While planning, alternatives are evaluated and a choice is made regarding which course of action is to be followed.
For instance, princes, you have the choice to either capture your kingdom or live in exile. Since you have decided to capture your kingdom, you can decide from amongst various alternatives how to go about it. Choice 1. You can claim the help of other kings who are your sympathizers. Choice 2. Your erstwhile subjects can help you. Choice 3. You can petition the UN or other NGOs to help you.
Sir, why is planning so important?
The ancients have always said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Napoleon Hill has said, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action.
This very simple quote encapsulates the importance of planning. Planning is the cornerstone of the management function. Planning helps in bridging the gap between the present and future course of action.
Princes, now I will narrate to you the importance of the benefits of planning.
Importance and benefits of planning. Let us have a quick look at the benefits of planning. Planning reduces uncertainty, risk, and confusion in operation. Planning guides the decision-making by the managers. Planning helps in achieving coordination and facilitates control. Planning with an element of flexibility makes the organization capable of coping with the changing environment and facing challenges. Planning leads to economy and efficiency in operations. Planning begins with the determination of objectives. Limitations of planning. Planning can minimize the risk but cannot eliminate the risk. The success of planning depends to a great deal on authenticity of information and external and internal variables over which the planner has no control. Planning is the big process, so it is very time-consuming and money-consuming. Planning leads to rigidity. Following a pre-decided plan when circumstances have changed may not turn out to be in the organization's interest. Planning may not work in a dynamic environment. The organization has to constantly adapt itself to changes. Planning cannot foresee everything, and thus there may be obstacles to effective planning. Planning reduces creativity. Planning involves huge costs. Planning does not guarantee success. The success of an enterprise is possible only when plans are properly drawn up and implemented. Any plan needs to be translated into action or it becomes meaningless. Essentials of a good plan. The planning process must be continuous and creative and communicated to the lowest possible level. Planning should be time-bound and exist at all levels in the organization. Planning should not be rigid and should coordinate the efforts of the departments. Planning must have an inbuilt controlling system. People are the essence of planning. This factor should be kept in mind while framing plans. Types of planning. Planning is necessary in all walks of life. To name a few: architectural planning, business planning, comprehensive planning, event planning and production, family planning, financial planning, life planning, marketing plan, strategic planning.
Remember, you were born to win. But to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win.
Sir, you sound like a management guru.
Actually, I'm an ex-student of Harvard Business School.
Oh, sir, will this management principle help me win back my kingdom?
Why not? Management principles are meant to be applied in real life. A plan is a blueprint of how you execute your dream in real life. Plans are nothing. Planning is everything.
Armed with this knowledge, the princess made her plans. Her subjects were loyal to her, and ultimately she dethroned and imprisoned the wicked vizier. The princess ruled over her kingdom wisely and well. And what about the hermit? Well, he became her prime minister, and the ex-student of Harvard used his management skills to guide the princess as she led her subjects to peace and prosperity.
The Nesn Objectives, you're going to be able to understand simple organizational charts. With this comes a lot of key terminology, and you're going to be able to understand and explain the key terms in organizational structures. And lastly, you're going to be able to analyze and compare the difference between a tall and flat organization. We're going to be using a lot of key terms this lesson: a hierarchy, spans of control, delegation and empowering, roles and responsibilities,
functions, authority, accountability, flat and tall. So what exactly is an organizational structure? Well, you can see here, this is the organizational structure of our school, and you can see at the top of the structure of the Board of Governors, and they oversee the whole of the school, and they directly communicate with the head teacher. The head teacher then communicates to all the heads of faculty, and the heads of faculty then communicate down to the teachers of each faculty. So this is a very basic organizational structure of our school, but I'm going to give you a proper definition of an organizational structure. And that is, an organizational structure is how a business is laid out depending on your job role and responsibility. So whatever job role you have and whatever responsibilities you have will determine where in the business you are. This structure or organizational structure is also referred to as a hierarchy. We're going to look at the control in a business, and it's going to be in two parts. So the first part, we're going to be looking at spans of control, delegation and empowering, roles and responsibilities, and we're going to start off with spans of control. A span of control is the amount of people that you are responsible for. So you can see here that in the humanities department, Mr. Franklin is responsible for Ms. Canlish, Ms. Hencher, Mr. Devine and Mr. Dawati. So his span of control is 4. If we include the students in that, and let's say for example each class was to have 25 students, you'd have 100 students in plus 4 staff, so Mr. Franklin's span of control would be 104. A span of control is the amount of people that you are responsible for. Delegation and empowering. We're going to use a different structure here on the left hand side, a very small and basic one. And you can see here that I am responsible to Mr. Littlehales, who's the head of business studies. Now Mr. Littlehales has overall responsibility of the business department. But let's say for example Mr. Littlehales decides he can trust me to take responsibility for marking the exam papers, for example. So what he has done is he's delegated his responsibility to me. He's given me part of this responsibility because he trusts me. And what that basically means is that I'm quite happy and satisfied because Mr. Littlehales has trusted me with responsibility. So delegating responsibility downwards can empower someone and make them feel good. And roles and responsibilities in terms of your job, very, very basic. A job role is basically what your job title is. So my job role is business teacher, and your responsibilities are what you are responsible for doing. So as a business teacher, it's my responsibility to make sure that my students are prepared for their exam. The second part of controlling a business, we're going to look at functions, authority and accountability. And we're going to start off with functions. A function is also known as a department. So in our school you can see that there's one function called humanities, the maths function, the science function, the ICT function and the business and vocational function. A function is basically a department. What's authority? If you are a head or if you are a head of a department, or if you look after certain people, you have authority over the people that work underneath you. So all the business and vocational teachers are underneath the head of business. So they are what we call subordinates. And authority, you can see here, is where the head of business studies has authority over the teachers. So he controls them and has authority over them. Just remember that if you work under somebody, you are what we call a subordinate. And lastly, accountability. So if we look at authority, where the head of business is looking down or controlling the teachers underneath him, accountability then works the other way. And so as a business teacher, you are accountable, you are responsible to your head of business studies. Accountability is also known as responsibility. So you are responsible for your actions and you are accountable to the head of business studies in this diagram as an example. So let's just revisit the lesson objectives then. So we should now understand what a simple organizational chart is, and we should also be able to define the key terms in relation to an organizational chart. But what we haven't done yet is to compare the difference between a tall and flat organization, and this is what we're going to do now. So in terms of tall and flat organizations, it basically means how many layers or levels of management that there are in a business. It's a bit like a wedding cake. The taller it is, the more layers it has, and the flatter it is, the less layers it has. So you can see here that this is a very tall organization, and there are a total of 12 different levels. Another organization, a bit more flatter, as you can see, and a bit more wider, and this has only got 5 layers or levels. So you can see here that both of the layers are very different in terms of their structure. One's very tall and the other is very flat. So let's look at tall structures first. You can see here that there's a lot of layers in the organization, and that basically means that the lines of communication and responsibilities are very clear, because you know exactly who you have to communicate to. The managers have a narrow span of control. Because the organization has lots of layers, it means that the amount of people per layer is a lot less, which means the manager above you has less people to look after. So their span of control is smaller and more manageable. And there is a lot of opportunity for workers to be promoted, because there's a lot of structures, there's a lot of layers there, so there's more chance that you can get promoted and move to a higher layer. Because of this opportunity, it motivates workers and makes them want to work harder, because there is an opportunity, or a larger opportunity, to be promoted in the company. Now, you can see here that in a very tall organization, if you remove some of the layers, so let's go back on the tall organization, if we decide that there's too many people working and we need to make some people redundant, we can take out some layers in a company. If we do that, you can see that we make the company a little more narrower. So let's remove some of the layers, and you can see there that there's a lot less layers in the company. That's what we call delayering. So you can see here a tall organization, let's remove some of the layers to save some money and get rid of some people, and you've got what we call delayering. So this is a flatter structure then, and here communication from the top to the bottom is a lot quicker. There's less layers, so from the top to the bottom there's less people to go through, and communication is much more quicker. In terms of communication then, the more layers you pass through, the more chance there is of communication or problems in communication. If you ever heard of the game Chinese Whispers, the more people that you go through and communicate to, the more chance there is that a mistake or miscommunication can occur. So in a narrow organization or a flat organization, there's less chance of communication issues to arise. In terms of the communication then, because there's less layers, the ideas from all levels are likely to be shared as they know each other better. Okay, because you know the people above you or even above them a lot better, because there's a narrow organization. Okay, ideas can flow from all the different levels a lot better than in a tall organization. And the managers, and this maybe could be a bad thing, but the managers have a wider span of control. It basically means that the manager has to look after more people, which will mean that greater delegation will have to take place. So because the manager has a lot of responsibility and has to be responsible for a lot more people, he may delegate responsibility to the people below him, which means for the workers, they may become more motivated because they'll be given more responsibility. So what have we learned today? We've learned about an organizational structure. We should now know the key terms in relation to an organizational structure, explain them, and hopefully now you should have an appreciation of the difference between a tall and flat organization.
So we are all done with the video. So do you all enjoy this video on organizational structure? We have seen organizational structure, we have seen controlling, and we have seen planning. Any questions, any doubts? Anybody wants to ask anything? Kelvin, Dijesh, Divya and Najat? So I think these videos are very informative for you. What about Divya and Najat? Any questions, any clarifications from your side? Are you there, Divya and Najat? Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our today's class. Hope you people have enjoyed today's class. We'll be meeting with the next class on Monday. So up till then, it's bye bye from now. Take care of your health and just do give your feedbacks after the class. Okay? So thank you all. Kelvin, Dijesh, Divya and Najat. Take care. Bye bye.